Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Melbourne Fringe Artists in Conversation. My name is Simon Abrahams, and I am the Creative Director and CEO at Melbourne Fringe. And it is my great pleasure today to be joined by the wonderful Stephanie Lake. Hello, Steph.
Hello, wonderful Simon Abrahams.
Wonderful to have you here.
Oh, it's all wonderful. I hope you can hear me okay.
I can.
Great.
Before we begin, I'd love to, I want to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land where we are meeting today. I'm zooming in from Kulin Country, and I pay my respect elders past and present and emerging. I'm here at, I'm actually backstage at Hamer Hall. That's where I am right now. Right here on the river, beautiful spot, a spot where stories have been told on these lands since the beginning of time. And it's an extraordinary privilege to be able to continue that tradition of storytelling right here, right now, in ways that are constantly evolving as they have over 60,000 years. And I thank the custodians of this land for looking after it so beautifully for so long and for allowing us here today. Stephanie Lake, welcome and congratulations, because next week you are creating a new work called Multiply. Now, of course, I know the answers to what it is and how it came about and all those things, but probably our viewers at home don't know some of those things. So what I want to do today, we're going to chat a little bit about Multiply, exciting work that's on next week. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then we're going to go back and we'll hear a little bit about your career and your influences and your other works you've made, and introduce some of our viewers to Stephanie Lake. How does that sound to you?
That sounds great. Lovely way to spend the afternoon. I don't like talking about myself, but I like talking to you, so we'll do that.
Brilliant. Thank you. Now, for our viewers at home who may not know, we've got a very exciting work that premieres next week. It's called Multiply. And maybe we'll start by telling people how it came about, which was I'd come home from New Zealand, and it was straight after the lockdown began, but at that point it was still in home quarantine. So I was one of the first flights back once Scott Morrison announced that there would be quarantine at home, and I was at home for 2 weeks, pacing around my tiny little courtyard in circles, and had this idea for hundreds and hundreds of people, all socially distanced, dancing and celebrating this moment, this time that we've had together. And I did what any good artistic director should do, picked up the phone and I rang Stephanie Lake and I said, Steph, what do you think of this idea? Is it crazy, and what should we do together? And since that time in March, we have worked together to create this event, Multiply. Can you tell me what it was, what you felt when you picked up the phone, and can you tell me what your initial response was when we talked about this idea of putting together this big, huge event called Multiply?
Well, I can tell you there just wasn't a moment's hesitation in saying yes to doing it. I've always loved, anyone who's familiar with my work knows that I really love working with big groups of dancers. And I've made I've dipped my toe in these kind of big mass public participation events in the past, but this is definitely the most ambitious to date. It just seemed, it's just a beautiful idea actually, and so generous, and I love that aspect of it, that it is something, it's somewhat of a gift to the city and to the people here. And And then I guess on the creative side of things, I just thought this has just so much dynamic potential, and we can make something really gorgeous out of this. I know from my experience of working with groups that just the smallest gestures or actions, when expanded out onto a mass of bodies, is just, it's so deeply satisfying. It connects to something quite profoundly primal or something. And I could visualize it immediately, and that's always a good sign. I think when you get a proposition for something and then you can see it, and that I could kind of see it and hear it pretty much straight away as soon as you were talking to me. Yeah, I knew that was a good sign. But of course, no hesitation in saying yes. We worked together year before to produce Colossus, which was a big work for 50 dancers, and that was such a great experience and such a huge success. This just seemed like, yeah, a natural evolution, I guess, and so apt for this moment. Just so right. And we've all got our fingers and toes crossed that we actually pull it off, because there's still more days between now and the 28th of November. So we don't really know what's going to happen between now and then. But I've never been involved in anything that's required so much kind of faith, for want of a better word, or just, everyone involved has just had to keep marching forward and to remain hopeful that it can happen. But the closer we get, the more real it seems. And I think we're going to pull it off.
I think we are too. And for our viewers at home who may not know, can you describe it to us? Tell us what Multiply is.
So essentially, yeah, it's a contemporary dance mass work for 400 people, performed in a public square. And the idea is that there's no preparation ahead of time, except from my side, obviously, like a year's preparation. But people don't need to learn any choreography ahead of time. There's nothing they need to rehearse. The principle is that they arrive on the day and essentially just rock up and can follow the leaders that are in front of them. So we've got 20 professional dancers from my team that I've been developing the choreography with. Especially, I've had a core team of 4 dancers that we've been making the choreography, and then the last couple of rehearsals we've had all 20 of the leaders. So it's been like this incremental growing. We've had all 20 of the leaders, and on the day, the participants will be able to turn up and follow that leader in front of them. That'll be like their dance guru, and you just copy what you see. And the idea is that those simple gestures extrapolated over 400 bodies will create a thing of beauty. But it's a 15-minute experience. One of the things I love about this project is, well, something I love about dance anyway, at its foundation, is it is an ephemeral, fleeting thing. It is experienced in that moment, and it is just for those people in that moment. And there's something really electric about that. This one, I feel like even more so, because it's not for an audience. So obviously we can't have an audience on the day. It's not designed for an audience. We're actually repelling audience, which is really weird. Like, when do you ever try and get rid of audience? But that's what we're like, get away, move away from the corners, nothing to see here. So we'll be actually, trying to decluster people. It's not for an audience. It is absolutely for those people on that day, in that moment. And it is absolutely just an experience. But then the nice duality of this project is we have that on the one hand, so that ephemerality, but then we've also got the film component. So we're collaborating with a filmmaker who's going to make a stunning film out of the event and out of the process of creating it, a kind of documentary art film. And so there's this lasting artifact that lives forever alongside this fleeting moment. And I love that, that's life, isn't it? It's like both things working together.
Absolutely. And it feels, for me, this feels like, maybe the most important project I've ever worked on, I think.
Oh, wow.
Because it feels like a project that that is quintessentially 2020, because it's bringing 400 people together in the first mass gathering that we've ever seen in months and months, for a city that needs to be connected. But it also brings those people together. It brings that community together. But it is simultaneously an in-person participatory project, but it's also a screen work, you know, it's a filmic work that will live on for, you know, forever, that will document this moment that no one who wasn't in Melbourne can understand, I don't think, what it's been, and what it means to be able to come together at the end of that time. And so for me, this feels like something so extraordinary. And those who are working on the project, you know, we know how hard this one has been to pull off, but which we are going to do. I'm sure of it. But, you know, it's been so challenging to get this on. But it feels to me so important for our city to be able to dance and to be together, and to do that in a way that is safe and celebratory all at once. So
yeah, absolutely.
I'm pretty excited.
I'm so excited. And that's so nice to hear that it's so important to you. It's really, I feel the same. I feel like we're about to experience something really, really special. I mean, we already are. Even just that, I'm thinking back to the first rehearsal with just the 4 dancers even, was so emotional and amazing. It was literally the first time we'd been in a studio since March. And really, it just makes you reflect on what you've been through, really. I mean, what a hell of a year. And we don't know what's ahead. This is something that's occurred to me, is this isn't the end necessarily of this. It's an end of a chapter, but we are possibly still in the middle of something right now. So it's a reflection on this moment, but it's not, and it's a celebration of where we've got to. And it's absolutely a celebration of coming back together. But yeah, we don't know what's ahead. So it's like, you got to take these moments when you can have them, right?
Absolutely. And I remember when we were talking at the start of the project, you know, I mean, we thought, you know, maybe the finale to the project was going to be, you know, everyone would all be touching each other and hugging and embracing for the first moment, you know, for the first time. And, you know, it was a symbol, you know, that we thought the distance between everyone might be a symbol of the year, as opposed to an actual health requirement that must be maintained at all times.
That's so true. Oh my gosh, yes. I keep
forgetting. It's so funny.
That. So ambitious.
It's funny now to think that that's what, you know, that's what we thought might be possible.
I'm kind of glad, though, that that's not the case. Not that I wanted lockdown to go for longer, but I do, to be honest, I did wonder if this would still be relevant. You know, when we were talking about it way back, we had no idea that we'd still be really, that it would still be so raw and so present. By this time, we really thought that there was a chance that no one would care about lockdown or COVID by November.
Absolutely. And yes, and in that same vein, you know, we're lucky that the timing has allowed us to present the work the moment we're allowed to, as opposed to 6 months later. Because for me, that's part of it as well. This is a project that means something now, because we're still having this Artist in Conversation via Zoom, because it's very complicated to be able to gather and do things. But to be able to bring people together outdoors in a really, you know, exciting way feels like the most important thing we could do, actually. And for me, it felt clear from a festival perspective that it wasn't about commissioning a play about this time, or you know, it had to be dance for me. It had to be something abstract and visceral and meaningful to really kind of represent what it's been.
And accessible as well. I think that's a really good point. And because, yeah, I want this to be for everyone and anyone. And yeah, there aren't many experiences like that, but this is really, we will build the work together. The work becomes itself because of everyone that's involved in it. And, you know, we've all got bodies, we can move them, we can reach for something on a shelf, we can scratch our knee. If you can do that, you can do multiply. Like it's really, it's important to me that it is for everyone and by everyone. And it's true what you're saying. It's like, it's so right somehow that it's a choreographic response. Something about, because we've been kind of so constrained physically. We've literally been contained to our small spaces. And I don't know about you, but just in my body has kind of become smaller, and we're kind of hunched over our laptops. And so to do something that expands right to our ends and reaches into space and yeah, just takes us out of our heads and into our bodies, I think feels like it's the right thing. It's the right thing. It's the right vehicle to say something about this moment.
Yeah, I think so too. And for people watching, we have just reopened registrations. We've managed to find a few more places. So we had, so I was going to say sold out, reached capacity, that's the word. Yeah. You don't have to pay to participate. We had reached capacity, but we found a few more places. We have reopened. So if anyone's watching at home, there is also an opportunity to sign up now to join the waiting list, and we'll be able to get as many people in as possible. And it's really simple, as you say, Steph. You don't need to learn anything in advance. You don't need to have any experience in dance. You can wear clothes you'll have at home. You can turn up, and but you must pre-register. There's things we need to tell you, but turn up, and you learn it all on the day and be part of this beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit what the experience has been of making the work so far from a choreographic perspective? How have you kind of approached the work?
Well, super unusual and challenging, because so much of it has had to be made in my head, which is not my favorite place. Like, no one wants to be in their head too much. But normally, in a normal creative process, it's all about the collaboration with the dancers and the collaborators, and all this kind of magic exchange happens in the studio. But we haven't been able to do that, obviously. So it's been really interesting. It's really tested me, actually, because so much of it has had to be kind of theoretical in a way. I mean, I can move and imagine what things are, and I have enough experience of making work to know what the effect is going to be, but you don't really know until you're actually seeing it on bodies and having that objective perspective. So it's been quite, yeah, weirdly stressful in a way, because I felt for so long like, I really want to make this to know what it is, but I literally can't. We had rehearsals booked in May or something, and then they were delayed to June, and then they were delayed. We literally only just got into the studio with those 4 dancers like a week and a half ago. So that, just having to be so patient as well, and just go, it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay. When we get there, the thing will happen. But much more planning and diagrams and squiggles and drawings and all that kind of stuff. Just working out the logistics also of how the participants interact with their leaders, actually just working within those really tight parameters of what the choreography can be as well, because we don't have the normal scope of space. We can't play with moving everyone up into one corner, or all holding hands, or any kind of contact, or even just shifting, even just moving in the space, making a whirlpool or something, you know, the kind of really simple things that I know would be incredibly effective across that group. We can't do that, obviously. People have their sticker on the ground and they stand on that and they stay there for the entire event for obvious reasons, for safety reasons. So it provides very tight boundaries on what you can do choreographically. It's basically an arm dance, and which is fine. It's a favorite limb of mine, but
Good choice.
yeah, but it is, the restriction's interesting. It does it change. I've had to become really thoughtful and creative about all the scope that there is within that. And really what we have is detail. So it's, you know, a tiny thing like just a finger, but you know, across a crowd of 400, that becomes interesting. Or movement through the group in a sweep, or changes of dynamics. So working with rhythm and working between chaotic elements and then organized elements, and trying to predict how the participants will deal with that information as well is a big one. So in rehearsal, lots and lots of work around, okay, now remember, you need to lead them into this change that's going to happen. If we're going to try and get a quick change between fast movement to something slow motion, you have to really, like, somehow you've got to make eye contact with 20 people at once and make sure they're all on board with you to make that change. It's really interesting, really, really interesting, and quite unlike anything I've ever done before, really. And I'm loving it, absolutely loving it. And what delights me as well is just how much the group is enjoying it. The dancers that have been working with me, is just their appreciation of being able to be moving with their peers, be in a creative process, do something that's so generous, like I was saying at the beginning. I think it's just absolutely the perfect re-entry project for all of us.
Brilliant. And have you ever created a work for screen before? Because this is a project that works on two levels, isn't it? It's a project that happens in the moment as a participant. And I was at rehearsals yesterday, you know, I mean, I could see how that, you know, what you have to do and how it works. But also, I mean, this is a, you know, Busby Berkeley spectacular at the same time, with drone cameras and, you know, cameras everywhere. How are you approaching, I guess, those two levels, that sense of what it is to do it, but also, I guess, the eye of the camera? And yeah, have you worked for film before?
Actually, hardly at all, because I'm just so into live performance. So, you know, I love film, I love TV, I'm a TV addict, as we all are, but, you know, I appreciate dance film, but it's not my thing. Like, I've never thought it would be something I would get into, because I love the dynamism of the live experience. That's my thing. And I feel like film is something else, and other people are really good at that, but that's not my thing. However, I'm so pleased that this project has that aspect, because it has changed the way, absolutely, it's totally changed. I think about the image from above so much more. I would never, in a theatre work, you would never think about that. Like, you're thinking about a million other things, but not the overhead image. So it's been really fun to think about that, to think about what the effect is of blinking hands above a head, or just simple things like making lines and then pivoting those lines. That wouldn't be that interesting from a head-on perspective, but from above, it's gorgeous. So it's also just, you know, what else it is the intimacy of film as well is really exciting, because in a normal theatre situation, you've got that separation between the audience and the performance, and I'm always trying to, you know, break that or connect with an audience intensely, but there still is that separation. You still, whereas with the camera can get really close to subtle changes of emotion on the face. We can see expression in the eyes, you know, things that you can't, that don't translate so easily in other, in theatre work. So I'm really excited about that, that there'll be not only this, the grand vista of the big, you know, the big picture of these gorgeous pixels working together to make this picture, this new picture. So there's that, but then there's also the intimacy of seeing those individual faces, of seeing people make eye contact. Those moments I think will be quite precious as well.
I think so too. Yeah. And it adds another layer on the project as well, I think, because for me there's that sense of reception and what will happen when audiences view that work. And because we're creating a film, you know, not a documentation of a lovely work. I mean, we're creating a film, you know, that I hope will, you know, be seen all around the world. How do you think, like, do you think about that? Do you think about how will people respond to this work on the other side of the world who don't know Melbourne or this space or these people, you know, because it's something to be there to do it. It's something to screen it for friends and family. It's something quite different to create a work for context that we can't imagine yet, you know, where that film might be shown. Do you think about that, or do you just not think about it? Do you just make the work and go where it goes, it goes?
Yeah, I think about it, but I'm not burdened by it, and I'm certainly not worried about it. I'm excited by it. I just, you know, the audience for contemporary dance is relatively limited. So to be able to have this kind of reach, and to be able, for artwork to be able to travel easily when we can't tour, is really thrilling. Frankly, it's awesome, and to potentially reach people that wouldn't normally have any interest in contemporary dance or seeing, you know, contemporary work in a theatre. So I really hope that it reaches a big audience, and I think it is. It's completely universal what we're doing. I don't. It's not obscure. It's not. It is. What you see is what you get. There's a big group, a massive crowd of people taking over a public space and moving together, coming in and out of familiar gestures, and then weird, wonderful things happen. And I just think it will be. It is a particular story for Melbourne, but this is a global experience, and it's going to be relatable anywhere in the world. So that's exciting.
Yeah, I feel that too. And having seen the choreography, you know, it's also, you know, I mean, it's not grand final pre-match entertainment. I mean, this is, you know, for real, just the real deal. You know, this is, you know, it's a beautiful work, and to just see it on 20 dancers was extraordinary. Yet alone, you know, when we're multiplying that, to see it, you know, with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Steph, I would love to hear also about some of the other collaborators on the project. Again, I know the answers, but can you tell me, pretend that I don't, can you tell me who the collaborators are on this project?
Sure. Well, I'm working with my partner and longtime collaborator Robin Fox, who's done the music, and he's done such a beautiful job of it. Really hard brief, because it's you know, there was nothing for him to respond to in the studio, which is normally how we would work. So he's had to, in the similar challenges to me, just out of conversation and imagination, come up with this composition. But it's wonderful. So yeah, the music collaboration happened here at home, and I think he's done a really nice job of finding the kind of a sense of isolation. I was like, I want the sound of isolation and tinged with melancholy. And then I want it, and then I want to find connection and like almost like data or something. The sound of connection. Like, how hard is that? He's done it. And then third chapter, celebration, pulse, rhythm, the euphoria of being together. So he's made this 3-act ballet. That's how we're approaching it. So that's a really important collaboration. And then, of course, we've touched on it already, but the collaboration with Rhys Graham, the filmmaker, is really central to the project. And he's just been such a delight to work with. We had one little experience together in 2013 when he did some behind the scenes documentation of a work that I made for Melbourne Festival. And so we did have that little connection, but it's just been, he's just been such a gem. And it's really, his approach has kind of influenced the way I've been approaching the work myself, actually. And he's got a real kind of gentleness but really smart and very honed aesthetic. So he had this idea to film us in our own homes through our windows. So there's this separation. He's on the other side of the glass, and then we're inside our homes talking about the development of the work, and then also moving and dancing. So there's this evolution from us being alone and in the interior, and then the climax of the film will be this big mass outdoor thing with these hundreds of people. So a beautiful journey across this short film. Who else? Oh, and then Harriet Oxley, who I've worked with lots as a costume designer, has been directing the visual aesthetic. So together we've worked out this beautiful color palette, and like you touched on, people will arrive in their home clothes but curated in a particular color block so that we can control how the colors interact across the space. Yeah, so I think, is that everybody?
Yeah, I mean, we won't name all of the 20 dancers on the project, but 20 brilliant dancers. And it's interesting too in this project, I think, because Paul Lim, who's our production manager, is actually such a core collaborator on the project. Absolutely. Because the logistics of what we can and can't do have such strong artistic impact this time around. Often the role of production people is to realize the vision, and of course it is, but also of course it's setting what the parameters are within which the vision can be realized, because we're working under such unusual circumstances. So obviously,
true. Yeah, he's just such a gun. And yeah, a lot of the creative decisions have had to be guided by those practical decisions, and that is normally the case, but just especially so in something like this that's so complex. And the whole team at Fringe I consider collaborators as well. All of you have just been amazing, and everyone's just been so committed to making this happen and kind of endlessly positive about it. And I don't think it would have happened without that team energy behind it. Yeah, and amazing skills.
It's felt like massive team effort to make this one happen.
Yeah.
We should say as well, at this point, this project is supported by a wonderful group of supporters, by Linda Hurd, by Daniel Beeson, by James McCackey, by the City of Stonington, who have been the most extraordinary partner, the Australia Council for the Arts, Canny Quinn Foundation. We have some really brilliant supporters that have enabled this project to happen as well. So yes, we bow down to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
At this point, I will say as well to anyone at home, if you've got questions for Stephanie or myself, you can just pop them in the chat, and they'll come up and I can read them out, and we can answer those as well. So feel free to pop any questions in as well as we are going. Now, speaking of supporters, I should say also this event is supported by our partners Monash University through their Centre for Theatre and Performance, which is an excellent jumping off point to talk about tertiary education and to find out about, I guess, some of your career history and what's led you to this moment. Did you study dance or choreography, or can you tell me a little bit about what you studied and how you've got to this
Yeah.
moment where we are now?
Yeah, for sure. I grew up in Canada and then in Tassie, and I dabbled in dance as a youngster, but I really didn't take it up seriously till I was in my mid-teens, which is quite late for a dancer and quite unusual to be able to make a career out of it. So yeah, but I I drifted for a bit. It took a while for me to decide what to do with my life. Actually, I had a few years off after year 12, and I did an apprenticeship with TasDance, which was the professional company in Launceston, and I just had a bit of an epiphany where I thought you just do the thing you like the most. I think I'd been trying to convince myself that I should, you know, I don't know, pursue a sensible job or something. But it just seemed really clear to me that you have to just do the thing that brings you the most pleasure, and then, you know, maybe other things will fall into place, which is exactly what's happened for me. So I studied at VCA, did my Bachelor of Dance, my BAD, in the late 90s, which was heaven and hell all at once, you know, the usual thing. But wonderful, because I met so many of my future colleagues and the amazing network of Melbourne contemporary dancers and choreographers and companies. And when I graduated, I started working with Philip Adams, who was really influential on me, especially early in my career. He'd just come back from New York and really brought a lot of energy. And that was really, really exciting. And shortly after, I started working with Lucy Guerin, who is a mentor to me and such an inspiration. And I worked with her as a dancer for nearly 20 years. So really long career with Lucy. Also started working with Chunky Move at around the same time. So it was, yeah, an incredibly fertile time. I just feel so lucky that I graduated into that change in the Melbourne scene. So Chunky Move had just started. I got a job with them as an intern, as a understudy, and one of the dancers broke her toe and I was on stage. It's like from a movie or something.
Classic story.
Yeah, it's the classic story. But ended up working with Gideon again for it was, yeah, until he left the company. So over 15 years of performing with Chunky Move on and off, and lots of choreographic opportunities through that company too, which was just amazing. So he really supported me with commissions and making short works, bigger works, until I was making full length work for the company. So yeah, huge mentors and inspirations through the Melbourne scene. And I always choreographed. Since I was young, I was choreographing. It wasn't like something I decided to do once I retired from dancing. The two things were always braided together, and it just was a logical kind of shift, I guess, to put more focus into my choreographic work as I started to wind up the performance work. But I wouldn't be the choreographer I am without that experience as a dancer and all that performance and all those creative processes with those brilliant minds. Yeah, and then a big thing to note is that I had children in the middle of my career as well, which is, I mean, it was a huge change in my life and a huge influence on the direction my life took. So yeah, when I was in my mid-20s, I had my first daughter, and then a couple of years later, I had my second daughter. So I was raising babies and I had small children, kind of in the prime of my career as well, which was, as you can imagine, pretty hectic and amazing. But yeah, challenging, you know, the whole gamut. But yeah, my beautiful girls are everything to me, of course. But now they're big girls. So yeah, it's been an amazing road.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, I would challenge you only on the idea that the prime of your career is behind you. I would absolutely
I mean,
challenge you on that. In that,
as a dancer,
as a dancer, as a performer. Yeah.
indisputable that is over.
Okay.
But yes, well, yeah, I mean, my return, there were a few years there where I thought it was probably, I was done actually. I didn't think I would return to dance. And that was quite sad in some ways. So um, the slow return to working and the gradual opportunity that started to open up was just miraculous. Honestly, it was really exciting that door was still open to me, and I realized how much I missed it and I wanted it. Um, and yeah, it was about kind of 5 or 6 years ago. I started to feel like, oh, there's real momentum here starting up, particularly as a choreographer, and that's why I started the company structure. Because I want to build something that can offer opportunities to other people. That's really what I'm all about. Is I want to make work that I want to employ dancers. I want to make things that involve the community. I want to give opportunities to young choreographers. So I'm trying to build this company structure to be able to give back, really.
Yeah, which, you know, feels, you can see that Lucy Guerin's influence in terms of, you know, the extraordinary work she does through her company in terms of supporting, you know, a sector. It's unusual for an independent artist like yourself to have that kind of structure. You know, you have your own company, Stephanie Lake Company. I don't know how you came up with the name.
So wild, isn't it?
But you know, it is it's unusual but also exciting to see a structure behind an artist that can sort of start to support others. But of course, the reality of, correct me if I'm wrong, but the reality of a small company structure in Australia at this time is not hugely different from being an independent artist, in that, you know, there's still no ongoing wages for you or your employees. You're still working project to project, bit to bit, to kind of pull it together and make it work. But somehow, you know, which is obviously, you know, it's about the broken system that we have. You know, not about your company structure. It's about the system is the bit that's broken. But you know, there's something in that despite a structure that doesn't support ongoing funding of new companies, that really is locked in to supporting existing structures, that you've managed to kind of forge this hugely successful career, which includes a work called Colossus, which was commissioned by Melbourne Fringe 2 years ago, and performed here at Arts Centre Melbourne, where I am right now, and was later picked up by the Melbourne International Arts Festival, and then picked up for international touring, or national and international touring. Can you very quickly tell us about that work? Because it feels like that work is a work that propelled your career, you know, and gave you that kind of international attention at long last. So could you tell us quickly about that work, Colossus?
Yeah, so really briefly, it's a work for 50 dancers, for 50 trained dancers, so not amateurs, trained dancers. And I guess it was a culmination for me of decades of working with large ensembles when I was commissioned to make work. So in situations where I'm choreographing on the VCA or choreographing on a ballet company. And I always loved working with those large ensembles. I personally can never afford to put work like that on myself, obviously. I can't afford 20 dancers. But I loved it. And I just thought, I don't know, it was just a kind of, I always knew that I was working towards this show, honestly. For many years, I thought, I'm going to make, I want to see the stage flooded with dancers. And to be honest, it's a little bit, it was a bit of a reaction against this kind of, not conservatism, but there was this real kind of depressing attitude in the sector, which was a bit like, everyone just needs to make solo work that can fit into a suitcase so that you can potentially tour it, or just make sure you're making work that's only a duet so that it can go somewhere. And it was actually just a bit of a, it's a little bit petulant, but it's a bit of a push against that. Like, I don't want to do that. I'm good at making work for big groups, and I'm going to find a way to do that. And so it was in my plan. It was kind of vaguely in my 5-year plan to make this work for 50 dancers, and I knew it would happen at some point. But when I saw the call out for the Takeover Commission through Fringe and Arts Centre, I just thought, yeah, I'll just throw my hat in the ring. It was literally just such a quick and easy application. Threw it in, had no expectations, and just count myself so lucky that happened in that moment. You know, it's really like, you know, right people at the right time, the right kind of support, and it just took off. All the ducks kind of lined up. In that particular year, I was already working with the VCA students, and I was also working with the transit dance students. So I already had access to 25 dancers in each place. And it was a matter of bringing them together. And part of the appeal of the project was to bring dancers together across the city and connect them when they're usually quite siloed from each other. So there's that as well, just knitting the community together, getting all these dancers on stage, giving them a professional experience, and making something, kind of just working on something grand, like making choreography grand, a grand gesture. And I loved making the work, and it was it was really quick. We had hardly any rehearsals together. I think we had 10 rehearsals together, something extraordinary like that. But I knew there was something special about it from the very first rehearsal. But I didn't really understand the impact of it until we had that opening night. And oh God, I get emotional just thinking about it. It was so amazing. They danced they were just, you know, every moment landed, and it's so rare for that to happen. And the audience leapt to their feet as soon as it finished. And it was just like, and that doesn't happen, you know, Melbourne audiences are so cool and so kind of judgy. And so
not a Melbourne Fringe audience, Steph. That's because you're working to a Melbourne Fringe audience.
That's what I've
You're amazing.
all my life. Oh man, it was so gorgeous, and just the look on those dancers' faces taking that bow, you know, wow. Anyway, so special. But it's kind of taken on a life of its own now. We put this 60-second trailer online, and it just went viral overnight. It's had nearly 5 million views now. It's just got its whole other thing happening where it just keeps getting shared and shared and shared around the world. We did Sydney Festival, Perth Festival, and then it was in rehearsal in Switzerland when the lockdowns happened. We had to evacuate our team, so that didn't happen, unfortunately. It's programmed to be in Paris and Madrid next year, and there was all this other international touring lined up that's all been postponed, sadly. But I'm hopeful that in the future that will come back, and because in each place, one of the joys of the project is in each place that it's performed, it's local dancers. So in Sydney, we worked with dancers from all the different, the independent sector and the different schools. And there's something really beautiful about that. I just love that just bringing people together and giving them this really profound experience.
It's a beautiful work, and I'm excited to see where it goes next around the world.
Yeah, I hope it has another life. Yeah.
It will. So that's 2 Melbourne Fringe works you've made. Are they? Do you?
No, when I graduated VCA, we put a show on in the Melbourne Fringe and won the best show of the Fringe Award, whatever that was
Amazing.
called. I can't remember what it was, like the Melbourne Festival Prize Award or something.
Yep.
It was like the most thrilling night of my life.
Amazing. What year was that?
2000.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
We still have that partnership with Melbourne Festival, or Rising as it now is. So we still have that partnership going. But that's very exciting to think, you've at the start of your career, Melbourne Fringe was there, and obviously, now still supporting you. Obviously, question I can't not ask. What do you think? What does Melbourne Fringe mean to you, or what do you think the role of Melbourne Fringe, is for this city?
I have such affection for Melbourne Fringe. Maybe because of that early experience. I think when I was young, we put a show in Melbourne Fringe every year. It's just an awesome platform. I love that it's not curated. There are no gatekeepers deciding if you're in the program or not. It's absolutely DIY and grassroots, and I don't know, it leads to really interesting work because in a way it's not right to say the stakes are low, but the pressure is low. And if it fails, it's like, well, it was an experiment. It's just it truly is a place to experiment. And if it goes well, then doors open and it leads to other things. It's just, I've seen great work come out of it from young choreographers. And I see that it's just having that platform and that access to audience and that support and just it's just being part of something, it's just having a bit of framing around what you're making, being part of a program is so important, especially when you're starting out. So yeah, I think Fringe is brilliant.
I agree.
And I love, Simon, that you've also put so much effort into not only all of that side of Fringe, but also the commissioning of new work and getting behind more established artists and doing all of the amazing wrangling and fundraising you do to get big, ambitious ideas up. And that's amazing. Not even the major festivals commission and connect with their artists in that kind of significant, meaningful way, like actually putting money behind things. So yeah, bravo to you.
Thanks, Steph. I mean, it is, I guess for me, it's the realization of that vision of Melbourne Fringe as a celebration of cultural democracy, of a celebration of the city that anyone can contribute to. That means we've got to do that. We've got to make work that has moments for participation for anyone in this city, and anyone at any stage of their career. And that feels really important to me in the vision of what it is that we're trying to do, and to be a safe place for the unsafe, to be a place for discovery, to enable risk taking and for our people, whether that's artists or audiences or staff, to kind of learn new things and discover new artists and new art forms, and maybe even discover new things about themselves. And that feels really, really central to what it is that we do.
Yeah.
So thanks to you for being part of that
I love it.
as well. We are nearly out of time. Stephanie Lake, what's next? You are about to, next week, putting together a beautiful big work for Multiply. We know we'll see Colossus doing some more touring. What's next for you after that?
I've got some really exciting projects in the mix, and I'm just pinching myself that things are going so well in the midst of a pandemic, but they are actually going really well. So the next thing I'm embarking on after Multiply is a co-production with Malthouse Theatre. I can't say too much about it because they haven't released their program, but we're making a work together that's a dance theatre work that I'm very excited about. That will be on next year, but we're starting developments this year. Then my next big company work, we've just got great support for, that's a work called Manifesto, and that's a work for 9 dancers and 9 drummers on 9 drum kits. So a big, loud, like once again, the anti-solar, a big, loud, raw work. I'm calling it an ode to optimism. That's the tagline on Manifesto. So I'm thrilled to start work on that. We start that in February, and we'll work on that across the year, and then it will premiere in 2022. So yeah, lots happening. I've also got, there are many other collaborations that are underway with other companies and really interesting artists. And so they were working on those across the year, and hopefully everything is so up in the air, but hopefully some of those will premiere next year as well.
Amazing. Well, that sounds hugely exciting. And an ode to optimism sounds like precisely what the world needs right now. I think optimism is all that's got us through 2020, and hopefully in everything that's come and gone, in all the ups and downs of 2020, optimism is what we can hold on to. So I think an ode to optimism is hugely exciting, and perhaps a beautiful note to end on. So for anyone at home, come along to Multiply, or sign up to participate in Multiply. It's on next Saturday, the 28th. It's going to be beautiful. Stephanie Lake, I want to thank you for your contribution, for your support, for your vision, and for realizing a crazy idea with such energy and skill and, dare I say, optimism. So I thank you for working with us to realize a ridiculously ambitious project. And it's been a great privilege to work with you on this project and to talk with you today. So thanks, Stephanie.
Thank you so much, Simon. That's so kind. And likewise, back at you. Right back at you. And thanks everyone for listening.
Beautiful. Thanks, everyone. Bye.